We don't always notice the moment a family stops speaking to someone like they belong. Sometimes it's smaller than a fight, a pause where a name should be, a toast that circles the room and never lands where it's supposed to. That was how Elena Caldwell's night started to tilt. Not with shouting, with everyone smiling too hard while she stood close enough to hear it all. Elena wasn't asking to be celebrated. What makes her story hit is how familiar that quiet removal can feel when it comes from the people who raised you. She was the one who kept things steady in a house that only clapped for the loudest person. And on the night she turned 18, the truth finally stopped hiding behind good manners. What followed was her voice. I could tell the party had been planned for the cameras, not for me. The living room looked like a magazine spread. White flowers, caterers moving like they owned the place. Lucas's ring light parked near the fireplace like it belonged there. My mother kept touching the edge of the tablecloth, smoothing wrinkles that weren't there. Lucas drifted through it all with his phone up, talking into it like it was a friend. Big night for the Caldwell legacy. He went on, sweeping his arm toward the windows, the water beyond them, the house itself. You guys have been asking for this. I stood near the doorway with a plastic cup of soda because I didn't trust myself with champagne, not because I was nervous, because I didn't want anything in my system that could blur what I was seeing. My father lifted his glass and everyone turned. Family, he began, voice warm, practiced. Tonight is special. We're stepping into a new season. My mother's smile widened, the one she used when she wanted the room to agree with her. A season where we do things together, no more separate paths. People murmured approval. Glasses clinked. Someone laughed too loud. I waited for my name. My father kept going. We've been through a lot. Loss changes you. It reminds you what matters. He nodded toward my Uncle Thomas, who had been hovering near the bar like he was guarding it. Thomas lifted his own glass, eyes sharp, almost restless. My mother angled her body slightly, like she was making sure I stayed in the edge of the frame. This house stays in the family, she added. Light voice, heavy meaning. That's the future. Lucas swung his phone toward them. Say it again, he urged. My followers love this stuff. My throat tightened. Not because I wanted a shout out, because I realized they could speak for a full minute about the future, about family, about what mattered, and still act like I wasn't standing there. I took a step back, careful, slow. My heel caught on the corner of a folded chair and the metal scraped the floor. My mother's head snapped toward me. Elena, she cut in, too bright. Watch it. I froze with one hand on the chair. Sorry. Her eyes flicked to the guests, then to Lucas's camera. Not tonight. Please. Something in me went still. Not hurt. Exactly. More like the final confirmation of something I'd been trying not to name. From across the room, my father called out, Where's your brother's tripod? We need it set up by the fireplace. Lucas didn't look away from his screen. Elena can grab it. I didn't move. Lucas's gaze finally lifted, annoyed. Come on. It's literally right there. My father's smile stayed glued on. Just help out. Elena, don't make it weird. We saw it then, the way the room decided what her presence was for. No scene, just a quiet assignment, delivered like it was normal. I walked toward the hallway anyway, not to grab anything, just to get out of the noise. The grandfather clock near the stairs ticked steady and loud, like it was counting down to something only I could hear. At the bottom step, Thomas's voice carried behind me. We're on schedule, he murmured. Just wait for midnight. My hand tightened on the banister. I kept my face calm and kept walking, letting their laughter roll on without me. At the top of the stairs, the sound softened. The house felt different up there, like it belonged to someone else. I headed for the study where my grandfather used to sit, and I shut the door with a careful click. Downstairs, the party kept performing. Up here, I finally had room to breathe. If you want more stories like this, stay with us and subscribe to Revenge Sins. The study still smelled like cedar and old paper. My grandfather used to keep the window cracked, even in winter, like he didn't trust a room that couldn't breathe on its own. I shut it halfway and leaned back against the desk. Downstairs. Someone laughed. A glass clinked. Lucas's voice floated up through the vents, louder than everyone else. Okay, hold on. Mom, say it again. Slower this time. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and set it on the desk. The screen was already open. One email, drafted weeks ago. Read so many times I didn't have to look at it anymore. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. The subject line was plain. No drama. Just my name and the word confirmation. I checked the time on the corner of the screen. 11:59. The house creaked the way it always did at night, settling into itself. Somewhere below me, my mother called my name again, sharper this time. Elena. Where did you go? I didn't answer. The grandfather clock chimed. Once, twice, slow, heavy, midnight. I tapped send. The email left my screen without ceremony. No animation, no sound, just gone. It didn't move any money. It didn't flip a switch in a vault. It gave permission. That was all. Samuel Price would do the rest when offices opened. Courts, banks, paper that took time and didn't care how loud anyone was. I locked my phone and slid it back into my pocket. There was a knock, not hard, just enough to announce itself. My mother didn't wait. She pushed the door open and scanned the room. Irritation first, relief second. There you are. Everyone's asking where you disappeared to. I needed air. Her eyes flicked to the closed window. You could have said something. I tried earlier. She waved that away and crossed her arms. Your uncle wants a word with you. Just be polite. Tonight isn't about making things complicated. Tonight was never about me. Her mouth tightened. Don't start. Footsteps sounded behind her. Thomas leaned into the doorway. Smile already on. There she is. Birthday girl hiding upstairs. I straightened. Slow. What's going on? Nothing. He said quickly. Just family stuff. We'll talk tomorrow. My mother nodded like that settled it. See, easy. They both waited for me to agree. I didn't. I just stepped past them and headed back toward the stairs. Behind me, Thomas muttered, low and impatient. Just wait. It's already in motion. He wasn't wrong. He just didn't know which direction it was moving. By the time the party wound down, I already knew how the night would be remembered. Lucas would clip the best parts. My parents would talk about how well everything turned out. And my absence would be explained away as me being tired or moody or dramatic. That had always been the story. I learned early where I fit in this family. Not front and center, not off to the side either. Somewhere useful, somewhere quiet. At breakfast the next morning, my father sat at the head of the table with his tablet propped up against his coffee mug. He scrolled while he ate, eyes never fully lifting. Lucas dropped into the chair across from me, phone in one hand, toast in the other. The comments are insane. He announced, people love the house. Someone asked if we rent it out. My mother reached for the butter. Tell them it's private. For now. Thomas added from the doorway. He hadn't even taken his jacket off yet. Things change. No one told him to stop. I pushed my plate closer to the center. I've got class orientation this afternoon. My father nodded without looking. Take your mother's car. It's in the shop. My mother cut in. Lucas needs it later. Lucas grinned. I've got to shoot. I can walk. I said. It's not that far. My father agreed. Already done with the conversation. That was how it usually went. Decisions made in my direction without ever landing on me. When I was younger, I thought it was because I didn't speak up enough. So I tried. I raised my hand at dinner. I brought things up carefully. Once, when I was 12, I came home with a small trophy from a regional design competition. I set it on the counter between the mail and a stack of unopened bills. My mother glanced at it while rinsing a plate. Not right now. Elena, your brother scraped his knee. Lucas sat at the table, legs stretched out, barely bleeding. It really hurts. She turned back to me, grabbed the antiseptic. The trophy stayed there for weeks. I moved it to my room myself when I needed the counter space. That pattern didn't change as I got older. My plans were flexible. My time was available. My needs could wait. Later that afternoon, I passed my parents in the hallway. They were talking in low voices, heads bent together. We'll figure it out, my father said. It's just until the refinance clears, my mother replied. She doesn't need to know. They stopped when they saw me. My mother smiled too quickly. Did you eat? Yes. Good, she said. We'll talk later. We never did. I went upstairs instead, closed my door, and sat on the edge of the bed with my hands folded in my lap. Not upset, not surprised, just aware. There's a difference between being ignored and being expected to disappear. I had been practicing the second one for years. The email came while I was packing my backpack for orientation. Not a long one. Just a subject line that said transfer complete and a short message from the dealership. I stared at it for a second, waiting for it to rearrange itself into something else. It didn't. I went downstairs with my keys in my hand anyway. Habit, hope, both, probably. The driveway was empty. The spot where my car used to sit looked wrong, like a tooth pulled without warning. I stood there longer than I meant to, thumb pressed against the ridges of the key, counting nothing. Inside, my parents were in the kitchen. My father had the newspaper open. My mother was on the phone, voice low and cheerful. Yes, that one. The black model. He'll need it by Friday. She hung up and turned. Oh, you're still here. My car's gone. My father folded the paper once. Neat. We took care of it this morning. Took care of it how? He glanced at my mother. She stepped in smoothly. We sold it. Thomas knew someone looking. It worked out. I felt the heat rise first, then the quiet after. That was mine. You weren't using it much, she replied. You're moving to the city soon. Parking's a nightmare. I paid for it. My father set the paper aside, and now it's helping the family. Lucas wandered in halfway through, earbuds hanging around his neck. What's going on? My mother gestured toward him. Your sister's upset. About what? The car, my father explained. We put the money toward your equipment. Lucas blinked, then shrugged. You'll be fine without it. I actually need it. I waited for someone to say something else. Anything that sounded like hesitation. My mother crossed her arms. We didn't think you'd make a fuss. I had plans. You still do, she replied. They're just different now. Different. That word landed heavier than the rest. I nodded once. Okay. Lucas smiled, relieved. See, she gets it. I didn't argue. Didn't ask where the money went exactly. Didn't ask why no one told me first. I just went back upstairs and sat on the bed with the keys still in my hand. The metal felt warm, familiar. I opened my laptop and pulled up my budgeting spreadsheet. The one I'd been updating since sophomore year. Waitressing shifts, tips, every oil change, every payment. I moved the car line to closed and watched the numbers settle. Downstairs? Lucas laughed at something on his phone. My parents talked about schedules and deadlines and how tight things were going to be for a while. That was the moment something shifted. Not loud. Not dramatic. I stopped trying to explain myself to people who had already decided what I was for. From then on, I kept track quietly. Not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted to understand the system I was living in, and because no one else was paying attention. The summers I spent with my grandfather didn't look like vacations. No packed schedules, no matching outfits, just early mornings and whatever needed fixing that day. He liked to start before the house woke up. Coffee first, always black, always in the same chipped mug. Come on, he'd say from the porch. Let's see what's asking for attention. That was how he talked about the place. Like it could speak, if you listened long enough. One morning, I found him crouched near the back steps, tapping a loose board with his knuckle. He didn't look up when I came outside. "Feel that," he said, shifting over to make room. I pressed my palm against the wood. It dipped slightly. Not broken, just tired. "Water gets in," he continued. "Nothing dramatic, but it adds up." I nodded, even though I didn't fully get it yet. Inside, he spread papers across the dining table. Bills, statements, the boring stuff my parents avoided like it might bite. "You're good with details," he said, sliding a chair out for me. "Better than most adults I know. I just like knowing where things go." "That's a skill," he replied. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." That was the summer he gave me access to the online account. Maintenance, insurance, property taxes. Nothing flashy, just responsibility. "You're not paying," he clarified, finger hovering over the keyboard. "You're managing." There's a difference. I learned the rhythms. When the insurance renewed, which contractors padded invoices, which ones showed up when they said they would. Back home, my parents never asked about it. They saw the statements marked paid and moved on. Assumed my grandfather had it handled, which he did, just not the way they thought. Later that year, Thomas came by unannounced. He walked through the house like he was measuring it with his eyes. "Ever think about opening this up?" he said, gesturing toward the living room wall. "Make it breathe." My grandfather didn't stop sanding the edge of the table. "It breathes just fine." Thomas laughed. "You're sentimental." My grandfather set the sandpaper down and finally looked at him. "I'm practical. Sentiment costs money. Neglect costs more." Thomas's smile thinned. "Markets change. So do people." My grandfather replied, "Not always for the better." That night, he sat across from me at the table, paperwork stacked neatly between us. "When I'm gone," he said, voice steady, "they're going to see this place as something to use. You see it as something to take care of." I swallowed. "I'm not ready for that." "You don't have to be ready," he said. "You just have to be honest." He slid a folder toward me. Not instructions, not promises, just preparation. We didn't talk about it again. He didn't need to. Later, after he went to bed, I logged into the account and checked the balances one more time. Everything where it should be. Quiet, orderly, downstairs. The house settled around me. The same creaks, the same soft noises. I stayed at the table longer than necessary, hands resting on the folder, feeling the weight of being trusted without being asked to perform. My grandfather was buried on a gray morning that smelled like wet leaves and coffee gone cold. People hugged. Promises were made. Nothing stuck. By the time we got back to the house, my parents were already tired of being sad. My mother slipped off her heels near the door and went straight for the kettle. "We should make a list," she said, like she was talking about groceries. My father loosened his tie. "Not today." "Soon," she replied. "We can't just let things sit." Thomas was there before dinner. No call, no pause. He leaned against the counter, jacket still on, eyes moving around the room. "Property like this," he began, tapping the granite lightly, "needs a plan." Lucas dropped into a chair with his phone. "Are we talking upgrades?" Thomas smiled at him. "Eventually." I stood by the sink, rinsing my hands that didn't feel dirty. No one asked me to sit. My father cleared his throat. "The market's strong right now." "Strong doesn't last," Thomas said. "You move while you can." My mother glanced toward the hallway, then back at him. "What about the taxes?" "I've got a solution," Thomas replied. "Short term. Liquidity." That word again. Lucas looked up. "Like cash." "Enough to breathe," Thomas said. "Enough to clear some pressure." My father hesitated. I saw it in the way his jaw tightened. "This isn't risky." "Only if you hesitate." Thomas answered. I dried my hands slowly. What kind of solution? They all turned like they'd forgotten I was there. Thomas tilted his head. Nothing you need to worry about. My mother stepped in. Elena, honey, go get some rest. I'm fine. We're handling adult things, she continued, softer now. You don't need the stress, Lucas added. Yeah. It's boring. I watched Thomas's fingers drum once against the counter. Fast. Impatient. My father finally nodded. If it gets us through the next few months, Thomas's smile widened. That's the idea. Later that night, I passed the study and heard voices through the door. Low, careful. Credit cards first. My mother whispered. And the other thing, my father added. The one we talked about. Thomas answered without hesitation. Once the money clears, you'll forget you were ever worried. I kept walking. Didn't stop. Didn't knock. In my room, I opened my laptop and logged into the account my grandfather had trusted me with. The numbers hadn't changed. Everything still where it belonged. Downstairs. Someone laughed. A chair scraped. Plans were being made. I closed the screen and sat back on the bed, listening to the house hold its breath. Thomas stopped pretending a few days later. He called a meeting in the living room like that made it official. Papers spread out on the coffee table. A legal pad with his handwriting, blocky and confident. Time matters, he said, tapping the pen. Delays cost. My mother perched on the arm of the couch. We're already behind. My father rubbed his temples. Just explain it again. Thomas leaned back. Bridge money. Short term. We refinance, clear the debt, then decide what to do with the property. Lucas hovered near the window, phone in his hand. Can I film this? People like behind-the-scenes stuff. Not everything needs to be content. My mother snapped. Thomas waved him off. Let him. Transparency builds confidence. I stayed near the doorway, quiet, observing. Thomas slid a folder toward my father. Draft documents. Nothing final yet. I recognized the formatting. The margins were wrong. The notary line was incomplete. Small things. The kind my grandfather would have circled in red. My father flipped through it. Looks standard. It's a working version, Thomas said quickly. The lender moves fast. They don't nitpick. I spoke before I could stop myself. Who's the lender? Thomas's eyes flicked to me. A private group. Not your concern. Lucas's phone buzzed. He tilted it, framing Thomas in the papers. Say that again. Turn that off, my mother said. Thomas smiled for the camera anyway. We're just exploring options. No big deal. Later that night, Thomas cornered me in the hallway. His voice dropped. Friendly, urgent. You're good with accounts, he said. Your grandfather trusted you. I didn't answer. Help us smooth this out, he continued. Just small things. Access, timing. I stepped back. I can't. He sighed. You don't want to be the reason your parents struggle. I don't want to be the reason anything illegal happens. His jaw tightened. Words matter. Paper matters more. He stared at me for a beat, then laughed. You're young. You'll learn. I walked away. That night, I forwarded the draft Thomas had shared to Samuel Price. One line in the email, not a question, just context. The next day, Lucas went live again. Kitchen this time, coffee brewing. Thomas in the background, pacing. We just need the money to clear, Thomas muttered, not realizing he was in frame. Once it's spent, they won't back out. Lucas nodded like this was normal. It's fine. It's basically done. I watched from the stairs as it happened, not stepping in, not warning anyone. By the end of the week, the account showed activity, a large deposit, then withdrawals, fast, chunked, gone. At dinner, my mother exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for months. I slept last night. Thomas looked wired, hands unsteady. Just don't ask for receipts yet. My father frowned. Why? Because it's moving, Thomas said. That's how this works. I closed my laptop upstairs and let the screen go dark. The draft file, the recording, the live stream clips, all saved, time-stamped, downstairs. Lucas laughed at something on his phone. Thomas talked faster. My parents nodded along. They thought the trap was the money. It wasn't. It was the trail they were leaving behind. The moving truck arrived just after 9. I heard it before I saw it. The low grind of the engine, the hollow thud of the ramp hitting gravel. By the time I stepped onto the porch, Thomas was already outside, jacket buttoned wrong, folder tucked under his arm like a shield. My mother followed him out, keys clenched in her hand. "This will be quick," she said, not looking at me. "We'll sort it out after." My father hovered near the door, phone pressed to his ear, nodding to someone who wasn't there. Lucas appeared last, camera up. "This is wild," he murmured. "People are going to lose it." Thomas clapped his hands once. "All right, let's keep this clean." A car pulled into the drive behind the truck. Not a mover, not a neighbor. Samuel Price stepped out first. Calm, dark coat, no rush. A second figure followed, uniform crisp, posture steady. Thomas froze. "What's this?" Samuel walked toward us and held up a folder. "Temporary restraining order, emergency injunction, issued this morning." My mother laughed once. Sharp. "You're joking." "I'm not." Thomas moved closer. "You don't have authority here." Samuel turned slightly, enough to include the man beside him. "Deputy Ellison is here to enforce the order and secure materials related to suspected forgery." The deputy nodded, already scanning the truck, the folder in Thomas's hand, the open doors. My father stepped forward. "This is a family matter." "It stopped being one," the deputy replied. "Even, neutral." My mother rounded on me. "You did this." I didn't answer. She took another step, voice rising. "After everything, after we raised you, you think you can humiliate us like this?" Samuel spoke before I could. "Ma'am, please step back." She ignored him. "Say something. Fix this." I looked at her. Really looked. The tight jaw, the shaking hands. "I didn't break anything." Thomas snapped. "You set me up!" "You rushed yourself," Samuel said. "The documents you submitted contain falsified signatures and invalid notary credentials." Thomas's face drained. "That's not proven." "It is," Samuel replied. "And the bridge loan obtained through those documents is now under review." The deputy stepped closer. "We're going to need the folder." Thomas clutched it for a second longer than necessary, then let go. Lucas lowered his phone. "Wait, are we in trouble?" No one answered him. The deputy addressed all of us. "The property is under court order. No one is to enter or remove anything until further notice." My mother shook her head. "We live here. Not today," the deputy said. Silence settled heavy. Even the truck driver stood still, hands on his hips, waiting for instructions that weren't coming. Thomas's voice cracked. "The money's already gone." My father stared at him. "What?" Thomas swallowed. "It was to clear things. Other obligations." My mother made a sound, small and broken. Samuel closed the folder. "You'll receive formal notice. For now, please gather personal items only." No one moved. I stepped back into the house and grabbed my jacket. Not much else. I passed the study on my way out and paused for half a second. When I returned to the porch, the locks were already being changed. The house didn't look angry or sad, just closed. For the first time. No one told me where to stand. 6 months passed without announcements or apologies. Thomas stopped calling once the charges became real. My parents moved off the island quietly. Boxes loaded by strangers this time. Lucas went dark online. No goodbye video. Just silence where his voice used to be. I didn't move back into the house. The trust converted it into a small residency program the way my grandfather had once imagined. A few desks, drafting tables, people who showed up early and stayed late. I visited once, handed over a set of keys, and left before anyone asked me where I planned to live. These days, my life fits into a smaller space, a rented room, a desk by the window, my own schedule. Sometimes I still hear my mother's voice in my head, sharp with expectation. Sometimes my father's tired and avoiding. They're quieter now, easier to set down. What changed wasn't the house or the money or the paperwork. It was how I stopped bracing for permission. Elena Caldwell doesn't wait to be assigned a role anymore. She notices what's hers to carry and what isn't. That's the difference. I keep my grandfather's chipped mug on the shelf above my sink. I don't use it. I just like knowing it's there. If you stay with stories like this, you already know why they matter. And this is where we step back, letting Elena keep walking forward, without needing us to explain what she's built since.